Hello viewers, welcome to the Editorial Analysis by Dristhi IAS. In this section, we regularly take editorials from various newspapers and news portals for a better understanding of various issues happening in India and around the globe. In this section, we first try to link the editorial with our UPSC syllabus, then we go analytical in order to understand some key points and at last some important concepts. Dear viewers, we truly hope that you like this initiative taken by Drishti IAS and your feedbacks are important for us. So kindly feel free to give your important feedbacks in the comment section. So without any further delay, let's commence our session.
Dear viewer, this video is available in Hindi as well. If you wish to watch it, please visit our Hindi YouTube channel, Drishti IAS. For your convenience, the link for this video in Hindi has been provided in the description below.
Today's editorial is taken from Business Standard, published on 15th of October 2020. The title of today's editorial is Falling Behind. If we summarize today's editorial, we can say that India needs to learn from Bangladesh's resilience and growth. If we try to link the editorial with our UPSC syllabus, we can link it with GS paper 3 and primarily with Indian economy, issues relating to planning, mobilization of resources, growth, development and employment. Some key points of today's editorial. Now, as we know that IMF, that is the International Monetary Fund, came up with its World Economic Outlook report, and it has projected that the gross domestic product in India will fall further than any other major global economy during the pandemic, other than the two early and intense epicenters of the disease, Spain and Italy. Now, it can be said that it is basically the reflection of the difficulties which are involved in restarting economic activity after such a severe lockdown. It also reflects the specifics of the growth path that India has followed in recent years and the larger questions about the sustainability of growth in India. Now, first of all, students, here we have come across a term which is IMF. So some idea about IMF. IMF, that is International Monetary Fund. It's an organization of 189 member countries. It was also known as Fund and was conceived at a conference in Bretton Woods, July 1944. Now, the primary objective of the International Monetary Fund is to foster global monetary cooperation, secure financial stabilities, reduce poverty all around the world, and also to promote high employment and economic growth in all the countries. Now, the World Economic Outlook report is presented by the International Monetary Fund. Now, the comparison with India's neighbor Bangladesh, which according to the IMF will this year for the first time overtake India in terms of per capita income, is particularly instructive. Now, there is something which is quite important for us in this report, and that is Bangladesh for the first time will overtake India in terms of per capita income. Now, this is something that we have to be concerned about. Now, before we move ahead, we need to see what exactly some technical terms which we have seen, GDP, per capita GDP, etc. So, now the GDP, you can say it is one of the best ways to measure a country's economy. Now, GDP is the total value of everything produced by all the people and companies in the country. It doesn't matter whether they are the citizens or the foreign-owned companies. If they are located within the country's boundary, the government counts their production as GDP. Now, there is another term, the per capita GDP. Very simple, very easy method to calculate the per capita GDP. That is, take the entire GDP and divide it with the entire population. Total GDP upon the population. Total GDP upon the entire population. Okay, basic. Now, some of the excerpts of the World Economic Outlook report that came in October 2020. Number one, it says the Indian economy will grow at minus 10.3. We're using the term grow, but it actually means contraction. There will be a contraction of how much? Of minus 10.3% in 2020. Also, the global economic growth of the entire world is also expected to contract by minus 4.4%. However, there is something positive in this report as well. It says that India's economy is expected to rebound in 2021 and there will be a growth rate of around 8.8%. Now, the report that IMF came up with, and specifically in reference to India and Bangladesh, the IMF sees that in terms of current dollar per capita income in India will fall by over 10% this year to 1877. So India's per capita GDP will come at around 1877 US dollars. However, Bangladesh will observe a growth of 4% in its per capita GDP, and that growth will take it to $1,888. Okay, so this is something which is a cause of concern here. 1877 for India, whereas 1888 for Bangladesh. Here's exactly where Bangladesh has overtaken India. Now, some important aspects. Now, there has to be some comparison which is to be seen. Number one, the per capita GDP data given by the World Economic Outlook is the lowest in 4 years. That means this figure of $1877 is the lowest of the 4 years. Also, it should be noted that in this particular data, Bhutan, Maldives, Sri Lanka, they are also ahead India. That means in the Southeast Asian region, India stands at number only, like India is third from the bottom. Okay. So something which is quite important for us to understand, like what exactly happened, what exactly changed. India's per capita GDP was around 40% higher than Bangladesh in 2015. That means we were 40% ahead of what Bangladesh had at that point of time in 2015. So what exactly happened? How they have actually covered up this distance? It is to be noted, very importantly, it is to be said that Bangladesh per capita GDP, it has increased at a compounded annual growth rate, CAGR. Okay, CAGR. Bangladesh compounded annual growth rate in the per capita GDP shows that they have attained a growth rate of 9.1%. 9.1% every year. Whereas India obtained a compounded annual growth rate of only 3.2% per year in the last 5 years. You can see the difference, 9%, and here we have 3.2%. So this difference actually, you can see here that this was the actual difference. This increase actually made Bangladesh achieve so much. Some other important aspects. This relative position will likely switch back next year as growth rebounds in India. I have already told you, expected growth rate is around 8.8%. Yet there are reasons why this might reflect a longer term trend. In particular, it fits with the notion that India and Bangladesh have been on a different growth tracks in recent years. I just showed you some data. I just told you some data. The compounded annual growth rate in per capita GDP of Bangladesh was around 9% from the past 5 years, whereas in India, it was merely 3.2% in the last 5 years, right? Bangladesh compounded annual growth rate, according to the IMF, has been about 6% points higher. Okay, you can see the difference, right? Clearly, this reflects certain underlying differences in the two countries' economies that needs to be examined more carefully. Now, it is something that our country needs to learn. We have to make sure that what exactly are the reasons why this difference is contracting, why this difference is shrinking. We cannot control Bangladesh's growth, but we can definitely increase our growth. Okay, so we have to focus more on that perspective. Next, its world-beating textile industries has recovered from incidents such as Rana Plaza fire that raised question about its standard and norm. It is fundamentally more efficient than its equivalent export oriented units in India, thanks to better layout and other regulations. Yet, there has been an unwillingness in India to learn the right lessons. One of the major reasons why Bangladesh actually managed to obtain such a high growth, some of the important aspects, like number one, Bangladesh has got one of the finest textile industries in the country. And also, initially, there were several questions raised on standards and norms, but Bangladesh has taken care of each and everything. It is to be noted, quite surprising. Again, a very interesting data which I'm giving to you guys is Bangladesh has increased its export and like tremendously. They have increased their export almost by 45% since 2015. That means what data they had in 2015 and what data they have in 2019-2020, it shows an increase of around how much? It shows an increase of around 45%. Last year the export of Bangladesh was around 45 billion US dollars. It was around 45 billion US dollars, and it was almost an increase of 45% from what it was in the year 2015. However, it is to be noted that India's export during this entire duration, starting from 2015 to 2020, it has generally been stagnant. So, things are there which are needed to be learned from India's side. In fact, policy in India has become more inward looking. Hopefully, this will change now. Bangladesh is only rarely brought up in Indian politics unless it is in context of accusation of illegal immigration. Every time, whenever the term of Bangladesh, whenever the name of Bangladesh comes into our politics, it's more or less with respect to the illegal immigration. However, this data has also changed in the last decade. Why? Why do people immigrate? Why does the migration takes place? One of the important reasons is jobs. So Bangladesh is actually working upon it, and slowly this problem of illegal immigration is also reducing. Now, some of the important challenges ahead. Okay, this is not to say that Bangladesh growth story is itself as sustainable habit would like. There are several problems on the horizon, though there is a tremendous growth which Bangladesh has achieved, yet there are several problems associated with Bangladeshi economy as well. One of the most important problem is that Bangladeshi economy is entirely thriving only and only upon the textile industry. They are not able to pay attention to the other sectors of the economy, which later on might become a problem. Then there is a question of whether sustained high growth will mean Bangladesh loses its various special dispensations from importing countries that it has received as a consequence of low income status. Now, there are several benefits which Bangladesh has received from various countries in terms of import. Now, when the position of Bangladesh is improving, so definitely this status of being a low income country will be taken off, and those perks associated with it also will be taken off. Now, it is quite important for us to understand that there has to be a diversification. Bangladesh has to follow this proposal that they have to go for diversification of industries. Okay, this will require skillful diplomacy on the part of government in Dhaka, certainly better than what has been shown by New Delhi, which has allowed such privileges to lapse or been withdrawn in recent years. Now, it absolutely depends upon the government in Dhaka that what proposals, what skillful measures they are taking, so that in order to avoid any problem in the future. However, there is to be said that for India, there are many lessons which India can learn from its own very neighborhood. Now, there is one very important concern here. Like I told you, that the World Economic Outlook report came up with its data, and it shows that India will definitely take over Bangladesh next year. That is in 2021. The per capita GDP is expected to be $2,030 for India and $1,990 for Bangladesh. But the World Economic Outlook report has clearly said that by 2024, the per capita GDP of both the countries will be same, around $2,540 by 2024. By 2024. And in 2025, it has been said that Bangladesh again will overtake India, and the number will be 2760 for Bangladesh, whereas $2730 will be for India. Now, this actually is the cause of concern, and here we have to take some very huge measures so that we are actually able to improve in order to be better, right? So this was with the today's editorial. Now, some of the questions that can be asked with reference to the editorial. Definitely some data about International Monetary Fund can be asked: when exactly it was formed, how many member states are there, what are the primary objectives, some of the questions like this. In fact, a question on World Economic Outlook report, a question has been asked: who actually publishes this report? Question has been asked in the past, so please be careful. Some of the questions with respect to GDP per capita and other associated factors. So, viewers, this was with the today's editorial. I hope you liked the editorial. Thank you very much.